Good morning, Grand Rising, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Shaman. Happy New Year. I'm your host, Anthony Golden Sunshine, aka Antonio Corianti. Welcome. I have a beautiful, wonderful guest this morning. I'm excited to bring out in a few moments. Check in. Let me know where. Oh, we got lots of people already here this morning. Oh, Mary blew the surprise. I'm excited for Faith to be on the show this morning. It wasn't really a surprise, so we just didn't really put it up. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Angela. Good morning, Jill. Good morning, Alana. 1 million Buddhas. Good morning. Benjamin DeMolder. Brother, can you see if I have parasites in mad pain, please, brother? I could probably take a look at that and try to figure that out for you. If you can just hang out for a few minutes, there is a possibility. The thing is most people have parasites and they don't know. Not all of them cause a lot of problems, but I went down the rabbit hole on this and it kind of freaked me out. There's just most people have parasites. It's just how it is. So the chances that you have parasites are very high. What kind I won't be able to tell you. You'll have to go see a physician so that way they can do proper testing. And then it doesn't mean you have to. So I'm not like against the healthcare system. Some people get confused when I talk there's certain ways. I'm not against like the healthcare system. I think it definitely needs to be used for pictures and testing and sometimes medication, but most of the time it's just so we can kind of see what's going on and then we can begin to create a holistic healing plan around that. Mary says, sorry, I let the cat out of the bag. Well, maybe I should let the cat out of the bag. I'm going to bring Faith to the stage. Faith, welcome. Let me unmute you. Let me see. Can I unmute? Maybe you have to unmute you. Hit your mute button.
We got it.
There you go. I couldn't unmute you. I didn't know I couldn't. How cool is that? Hi, Faith.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited for you to be here. This is kind of like we started talking about this a little while ago.
Yeah, like 6 months or more ago.
So for anyone that doesn't know Faith is one of my sisters on the path. She's one of my sister Paqos, and she's also one of my proteges. And Faith, for me, Faith is one of the most fantastic shamans I know. She has this wonderful way about her and this wonderful manner in which she can facilitate healing through her. So I thought it was only right to get her out here on the show so people can start to meet her, see her, understand her, all those things. So welcome, Faith. I'm glad you're here. And you have your superhero hair today.
That's it was supposed to be like blue and blonde, and then I washed it and the blue just like trickled down and I was like, it's okay.
Well, it still looks like it's edible cotton candy or something. It totally looks like the right thing. So awesome. So Faith, let's talk about you a little bit. Okay. So you're originally from here, right? You're here from Ohio.
Yeah, originally from Ohio. I moved around a little bit. I'd say I spent most of my time in Avon, Ohio, which was kind of like more of a farming town when we moved there. But of course, it's nothing like that now.
Yeah, way different now. Yeah,
I spent some time in Columbus and then moved back to the Cleveland area. And before I knew it, I was in Colorado.
Yeah, buddy, how just poof. Now here. So when did you go to Colorado? How long have you been there?
It was May 2021.
May 20. Look, Magic Mike's here. Magical Mike. Hi, Magical Mike. So what part of Colorado do you live in?
I'm just south of Denver, like 20 minutes south of Denver.
Yes.
So pretty much the main area.
Yeah, I would say that's the kind of the main area. So,
Yeah.
cannabis is legal there, and so is psilocybin, correct?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
what's
well, it's like a decriminalized, so it's you can't sell psilocybin,
uh-huh.
but you can be in possession and use it.
Can you grow it? Are you allowed to cultivate?
I believe so. I
I
haven't
mean,
really
I know
looked
they
all the way
make.
into it, but I'm thinking
Yeah.
so.
I'm just curious about those things because I'm an advocate for psychedelic therapies, particularly psilocybin. And so the cities like Denver and Oakland and some of the others that have already opened the doors for the possibility of these things, that really excites me. I think most people say, most of the research I've done, the professionals in the fields say that they believe that even though there's so many more states that have legalized cannabis, that federally psilocybin will become legal before cannabis. So we'll see if that comes out. I feel that to probably be true. Most people don't know that for 3 years in a row, psilocybin has been named a breakthrough treatment by the FDA. Most people do not know that. Like, so our government already knows and everything. Like, I don't know what the holdup is. I mean, I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people change their lives through psilocybin usage. And, there's lots of other psychedelic type of things that people use. But I think for something about, especially as being a shaman and an earth kind of being, something about the psilocybin calls to me more than any other type of medicine. So it's quite exciting over there.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it grows and all the possibilities that come up. I know, some professionals are already getting trained in how to use, at least like ketamine and some other things. So, yeah, I think it'll be really cool to see how it grows. And it's really interesting because, like, coming from Ohio to Colorado, my perception was kind of like, oh, everyone's just going to be like walking around high everywhere.
Right.
You kind of like wonder what it's like if it's legalized and, there's a really high interest in it. And it's not like that at all. Just it's like regular, just like going down the street, like most people, maybe like in the evening or something like that. I mean, yeah, it's a really interesting experience. I think it just, the idea of it gets so inflated in our heads because we're like, what's that gonna be like? And then we have all these fears, everything, the what ifs, of course. But
Yeah.
yeah, and as it plays out, like in reality, is just really interesting.
hmm Mary says law says it's legal to grow in Denver for anyone over 21. Well, there you go. Now I guess we have the answer to that question. I kind of thought the same thing, when I went to go visit California for the first time. I was like, what's it gonna, I kind of the same questions. There are gonna be a bunch of stone people everywhere. And like some of the places we were at, there was a lot of cannabis usage, but that was like in like Venice Beach and things like that. So there's lots of homeless people and things around there. Really cool place. It really brought a deep awareness to me and love for people, for homeless people. It really made me understand some things. Not all homeless people are totally mentally ill and are there, because there's no other choice. There's lots of people, many people who are homeless and especially live there. A couple of the guys I talked to, they were like, yeah, I choose this. Like, if you're going to be homeless, you should be homeless in paradise, right? Yeah, like, and especially there's lots of tourism around here. So there's all kinds of good food people are throwing away. It's happening all the time. So it's easy for me to eat. It's beautiful here. I'm not freezing to death. I'm like, wow, that's a good idea. And I've talked before about a good friend of mine. His name is Matt. And Matt, he was always kind of a rebel, I would say. Like, he was always kind of into his freedom as a young man, intelligent young man. And what he did is he decided to become a traveler. So he pretty much just took his skateboard and a little bit of money he had, and he went off and he started going visiting different cities. And what he would do is go visit the public libraries every so often where he was at. He would make Facebook posts and things. And so he would talk about, and the consciousness that would come through would be amazing. He would talk about things, and what happens is, like, you're new to an area, you don't know anybody yet. So that's kind of difficult, but he liked that at the same time. And so he's really easy making friends with people. And then, you have to kind of leave your stuff to take off to go look for other stuff is what needs to happen. Well, sometimes when that happens, one of the other homeless people finds your camp and they steal some of your shit. So he would come back and he'd be like, oh, unfortunately, someone found my camp and they stole my brand new socks I just got. And then he'd be like, but, you know, I wish them well. And I hope that those socks bring them the love that they need in their life, like they brought me. And just the way he would like, it like almost brings tears to my eyes right now, because what it does is it really shines onto me, like the things that like, wow, man, the way my mind thinks sometimes, if I could think more like Matt, I'd be so much more free. So it's like I see it as like teachings. These are like great, great teachings.
Well,
But
that
no, no one.
lifestyle brings so much love. I mean, you can't, when you're someone who is then like, and it's kind of like an outsider, right, in our society, and you start, seeing things and like taking a step outside of that matrix, and then, you are suddenly seeing all these things that you haven't seen before, and you're meeting these people you haven't met before, and, you just learn like, hey, like they're like me, or like, they have this cool thing about them, and appreciating all these things about people. It definitely brings a lot of love. And, you're right. I've talked to a lot of people who have experienced homelessness who are not wanting to get rid of that freedom, because they just see like this cycle. I mean, we're like robots. We go back and forth to work every day and kind of do the same things.
Mm-hmm. And that's where some of the, some of the homeless people are suffering from pretty intense mental illness. But also a lot of that mental illness is neurodivergence, I've noticed. So I can pick up in their energy fields. It's not like what I used to think. Before I could feel and sense, I would think, well, homeless people are crazy, is what I used to think. And that's why they're doing that. Well, no, not exactly. I mean, it seems crazy to the conditioned mind that you would choose to live on the street instead of go be part of the matrix like everyone else. But really, is that crazy at all? No, I don't think so. I think I'm crazy because I can't let go of the matrix. I'm not willing to go that far. Right. That's really what I believe now, is like, wow, they're a lot more. This guy's a lot more free than I am, because I'm not willing to let go of some of these things. Not yet, anyways, like, so it just shows, like you said, they're seeing that repeating cycle. Now, is that crazy or is that smart? I don't know. It's hard to say. There's a really cool YouTube channel that I like to watch. And this guy, he used to be like a corporate type of like photographer. It's called Soft White Underbelly.
Oh, I've been watching him. Oh yeah, I love that.
Check those out. Those are so cool. I would love to do something like that, but like with spiritual people instead of like people on Skid Row, because that's pretty much the people he brings in. And there's all kinds of different people. Some of these people are just wildly intelligent and have these vast capabilities. Some of these people are completely drugged and lost. So there's all kinds of different stories happening out there. But boy, does he get like a big cross section of like things people don't see or understand, what's brushed under the rug.
Oh yeah, I love. It's so funny you bring it up, because I was actually watching one before the show. This morning I was already watching one.
They're kind of addicting. Like
They are.
I usually, when I start watching them, I don't watch one. I have to watch a bunch of them. And it's been on for a little while now, so there's lots of them. When I first started watching is when he first came out, and I was like, wow, this is really something. And then he's like a humanitarian as well. He does a lot of things for these people out there. Like, can he
They
just
love
keep
coming on his show. They come back.
Yeah. And, things have happened, he's not steered away easy. This guy's, he's wealthy, so he doesn't need to do these things. Like, he's already wealthy. He's been doing photography and ad photography for like big name corporations and stuff his whole life. So he doesn't do this for the money. He does this out of his heart. And he's been robbed. He's been assaulted. He's had some things happen, and it hasn't deterred him. He just keeps going, and he brings out these people. And like, the thing is a lot of these people, they end up getting help from people. You have hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. I don't even know how many subscribers he has now, but I bet it's lots. And these people like to help. People love to help when they see other people in pain or in danger. So those kinds of things, he's been able to help a lot of these people get off the street, get into programs, get into housing. It's just, for me, it's just another form of the Christ light. That's how I kind of understand it. It's someone else that's doing something beautiful for the world while also kind of exposing truths. So it's quite some. I love Soft White Underbelly. It's really good.
Yeah, and all the love that comes through it. I mean, he's showcasing people that would, maybe not get the time of day otherwise, or like we might not hear their stories. And like, I'm just so fascinated by the diversity of the human experience, and like different areas of life that people are members of, and what that's like. It's so different.
Yeah, that when you said that, that jingled something inside of me. The diversity of the human experience, because that aligns a lot with kind of the ways that I teach. I try to bring the awareness to my people I'm around, like, hey, man, try to pay attention to what a miracle you are. Try to pay attention to the beauty of which you really are. These 30 trillion or more cells that make this universe that is you. Like that's amazing. And now understanding that, like, it just brings a whole different way of mind when you begin to understand each one of us is perceiving our own universe and reality. So like we are the multiverse, and that just, wow, that just blows my mind. It makes me really open to want to understand and hear other people's thoughts, ideas, and feelings. But it's that you have to shift that perspective out of that I'm me ego mind and into, wow, look at the wondrousness of everything that's around us. Just, I love to sit sometimes and just contemplate my existence. That's enough to just get me flowing. Lots of crying starts to happen because I just fall right into gratitude. It's starting to happen right now. I can feel my whole body starting to vibrate in a certain way just because my attention's going there. It's amazing.
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, that's the thing too, like I was preparing for this and I was like writing some things down about my history, and like it doesn't feel like me anymore. Like like I know it, yet somehow like it's hard to even come up with it because I'm like, well, what happened? Like it's just so far out there.
Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, you're right. You're not that anymore. That's just a story, right? That's another way. Like I've trained my mind. I try to get other people to train their minds. Is you eliminate so much suffering from your life when you can train yourself to be in the present moment, to let go of the story. You're not the story. Most of my life, I believed I was my story, and boy, that was disempowering. Led to all kinds of problems and issues. So I can get on board with that because you're not your story. You're what you are now and what you choose to create. What do
Yep.
you want to be? That's one of my favorite questions because I'm this great questioner to myself. What do you want to be today? Who do you want to be today? How do you want to show up in the world today? Love those questions. Who ask themselves that often? I don't think a lot of people, but what I can say is it's very, very powerful to question the self lovingly. Question the self like, what's important to me? Most of us don't. What do I really want? That's a huge one. I'm blown away by how many people haven't sat there and thought about that for a minute. What do I really want? I mean, like really, really want. Not like what do I want in this moment. What do I want in the big scope, the big picture of things? What is it I really want? What's important to me? What do I value? And when we start to open that kind of stuff up, then we can start to make choices to put our actions in alignment with our thoughts and feelings. And then we start to be able to manifest a world in which we really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, those questions absolutely open you up.
Mm.
Like I've been working with you for a little bit now, and I feel more expansive every day. Like I feel like I don't even like, I'm like, who am I even? Because I wake up and I'm just this new person every day. Even like this is so out of the box of like something I would have ever normally done.
Mhm.
Usually I'm a backstage person, you know. But yeah, so like this is really cool. Like just taking, even just like appearing on these live streams, like
Yeah.
a new step every day, and I don't even recognize myself anymore.
Yeah. I think for some people that's terrifying. For me, I love that. I love not being unrecognizable. Like for a lot, I think for the ego mind that creates a lot of fear because it revolves around identification. But we can be so much more free in our soul when we let go of the identification. And that's a wonderful thing to do. Like I like to do that is every so often, I like to purge all of my data. Like I'm gonna let go, like everything I think I am, just for 10 minutes, I'm gonna let go of everything and I'm just gonna be. And you do that. Now you no longer have a label to fit within anymore. And that's fun. Uh,
Yes. Well, you can live
yeah.
in the fear or you can realize your power. And honestly, that's been so exciting. Lately, I've just had so many like different opportunities and inspirations, like all these things popping up. And I'm looking at 2024 like, all right, like I'm so much more excited for this year than I have been for every other year. And I feel like that's going to be something like I start saying every single year, that I'm so much more excited about this time, because just the expansiveness and growth and the yeah, the passions and the opportunities and just becoming more and more of myself, I think is the best part. Like realizing like there's these things in me that I can bring to this world. And I was never really able to have an awareness of that before.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you about that in a second. Mary says, I'm excited to do a live stream with Faith, 2 fairies and a topic on Saturday, 1/13 at 12 p.m. I can't wait either. That sounds so cool. I love that. I absolutely love that. I have to say, Faith, as you're sitting here, I can feel your energy, and it seems like you're pretty okay. You're pretty comfortable right now, and everything's all right. There's not a lot of jitteriness. Everything feels good. So look, you're meant for this. I can feel that. I've known that. So, yay, Faith is here. That's what I was going to ask you. So there's a few things I could ask you. I could ask you, like, what do you do? What are you interested in? But since you started to talk about what you were talking about your shifting and your awareness shifting and everything, talk about that. What brought you there? What brought you into the Paqo Kuna tradition? Just start talking. I want you to just start kind of open up a little bit and let it just flow from you, whatever feels like pertinent information to be able to share about your spiritual journey.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, well, where do you start? Because kind of from the beginning,
Yeah.
Because I realized, there was times where I was like in middle school and like looking up on my dial-up internet, like, could I be psychic, or like, how could I, and my grandma she would have dreams and then they would, come true. And, but back then there wasn't a whole lot of information about this kind of spiritual space. And, I just really had this yearning desire for that to be me. But I was like, oh yeah, I don't really like think I, am or whatever. And then growing up, there's a lot of things in life that just, brought me down, and I was living in a space of fear a lot of time. And so I think because of that, it really stifled my awareness of my own energy sensitivity. And I knew that I felt things kind of like to a greater degree, but I don't know if I knew that consciously. Like that's something that just sort of like came to me. But I would always have this awareness, like even when times were like the toughest, I would go outside and there would be a bird or a squirrel, and I'm just like, wow, that's beautiful. So I was always someone who loved nature and really was just able to see the beauty of this world, even during the hardest times. And, I think that's something that I can bring to other people, is to help people see the beauty of the experience, even when it's hard, because that's beautiful too.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, so I continued growing up, and like I said, things were hard. I started getting on antidepressants in like high school. I was in like the 10th grade when I first was on antidepressants. And like kept going through college, still on antidepressants, started doing a little bit of self-healing work. And then I did a little therapy and I found Reiki. Actually, I think what happened first was I found Eckhart Tolle's The New Earth, which was like, it was weird because that book was a gift from like my ex's mom, like several years before that, and it had just sat on my shelf for like 5 years. And one day I picked it up and I was reading that and I was like, all right, like I can get down with this. This is helpful. I like this. And I started getting into Reiki, and I did that, and then went back to school. And at that time I started having panic attacks. I had a lot of anxiety and I was getting panic attacks, like the kind, like I remember my first one, I woke up, it was like 3 a.m. I thought I might be having a heart attack. I could feel my heart beating fast. I knew I was breathing, but yet somehow it didn't feel like I was getting like air, like I wasn't getting the oxygen. I just felt like, you get that sensation of like, this could be the end, even though that's not the case. And I kind of like waited it out. It kept happening. At one point I did go to the ER, and that's when they were like, oh, this is anxiety, like your heart's fine. And I was like, okay, like, so I can't die from this. They're like, no, you're not going to die from this. I'm like, okay, that's all you need to know. So then the pandemic hit, and that was actually quite healing. Like, I had a very healing experience during that time. I got to take a break from school, which was, it was definitely had a big impact on the level of anxiety and panic that I was feeling. And take a break, to not have something to do, to be able to be a little bit more, it felt more free to me during that time because of just the constant, I was, going to school, I was going to work, I was doing all these things, and just not living in that space of myself, and just like having all these expectations. So I got to take some time away, and I got to even go to a different place. I got to go to Baltimore for a little bit. So I got out of my own apartment, which was nice. Started doing yoga. And during that time, Hank started doing like a YouTube series where he was talking about spiritual concepts and shamanism.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hooked. I watched every single episode during that time. And it started to give me a different awareness of things. I started to really like think about things and notice my thoughts and change my way of thinking. And during that time, also, I weaned myself off of my anxiety meds. And so I just really got to focus on myself and
Mm-hmm.
to focus on like, okay, like what's going on here? Because, previously it was like, wake up, go to school, do this, go to work, go to sleep, wake up. I didn't really have that time for myself. I made it in some ways. Like, I was doing physical activity because, that really was helpful. But I wasn't doing the inner work. And I started learning how to do that inner work during the pandemic. And then I was kind of like following that, and it wasn't long before Hank was like, yeah, my teacher, he's gonna be coming to town, he's gonna be doing this shamanic path, and like you can take this course. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly, like, everything said yes. I was always interested in like culture. I was always interested in different belief systems. I was, already kind of down like the energy path, like doing Reiki and coming more into myself. Like, just everything said yes. And at the same time, I was like, oh man, like, how am I going to make that happen? Like, I'm broke.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just happened to be, I also moved to Colorado during that time. And, Zane was asking me because he did like a breathwork course. And so I was talking to him a little bit. He was like, are you going to take the apprenticeship? And I was like, yeah, I want to. And also, I don't have a job right now. I just moved to a new state. So, but I told him, I was like, if I get a job before it starts, then yes, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a job like a couple days later. And so I was like, yes, I'll do it. And that's where it all started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Zane. Don Zano. We'll be on tomorrow, actually. We do it every other Wednesday. Soar. Come soar with us. Spiritual Odyssey of Awakening and Renewal. I think tomorrow we're going to be talking about the importance of ceremony and ritual in spiritual development, which is something I love to talk about because I love ceremony and ritual. And I think it's something that's really important to do every day. And I just love the way that Zane can put certain words together. Quite helpful. Great
Mm-hmm.
teacher. We're very blessed to have a very great teacher. I will say that. And then Hank, he's a sonic shaman. He's over here. He's local with me over here in Ohio. He's pretty fantastic. So I recommend people check him out if you don't know who Hank is yet. We actually went to a sound bath of him in cricket like a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, something like that. I had a really profound kind of experience because there was also some of my other friends were there, other students and things like David Kovach was there and some others. So you kind of had like a room full of shamans. And that was really nice. Boy, was I able to tap into some really far out energy in there. I'm still integrating it. It's not all the way, it's not all done, but I knew when I was going there, I always am aware, like when I go to things like this, there's a big reason why. And I love it because I love to be able to spend time in the space to be able to receive medicine, because usually I'm facilitating. So when I get a chance to receive, ooh, that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I really, really enjoy it. I was going to step back into, you talked about, I wasn't doing my inner work. So maybe you could describe, people love to hear about that, and, from different perspectives. Could you kind of tell us a little bit about like what is inner work and how could one get started with their inner work?
Yeah. So to me, inner work is just having that awareness of self. Like I described, like I was going through the motions and doing this and that. And really during that time, I think just shoving a lot of things away, just like shoving things down. But the thing about that I've learned is nothing really goes away. So what you actually end up doing is creating a whole big pile of doogie that you carry with you everywhere. And it's like, how many things can you fit in the closet before like the closet can't shut anymore and things just start coming out? And that is kind of like the experience. And that's like, with the anxiety and the panic, like it starts coming out, like there's nowhere for it to go. And so then you just have to take that look and say like, okay, where is this coming from? And it's really hard at first because you don't know. You're just like, I'm having this experience, it sucks.
Right. And then you got to start questioning yourself. Well, why does it suck? And why do I think it sucks? What's going on? What can I change about me? It's always questions. For me, my inner work always revolves around questioning. Very inquisitive to myself. I want to know why I do what I do. I think that's a big thing.
Questions are so powerful. And I did use questions at that time. One of the ones I used was, like, what's the best thing that could happen, or like what if the best thing happened, because I think in our society we normally we're like, oh, what if this happens and what if that happens, and that's that fear cycle which leads to the anxiety and the panic. And so when that question came to me, I started using that often, and I started having that awareness of the negative thought cycles that I was having, because I didn't really have that awareness. Like, yes, I knew I had those thoughts, but I think I didn't have the awareness of like how negative they were. I think, for me, I always thought I could protect myself that way. And boy, is that a fallacy. Right? We're never gonna be able to protect ourselves, from, you know, the world. Like we can't. We wake up and we think we have an idea of how our day is gonna go. I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna get my coffee. I'm gonna have a little bit to eat. I'm gonna go to work, and that's kind of our expectation. But the reality is, anything could happen. And so to prepare for a limitless number of possibilities is not probable. So we're really just putting ourselves in like this space of, what's the word, like just like an unachievable thing. And like, how do we feel about ourselves when we're constantly working towards something that's unachievable?
That's when our cycles emerge, because it's always repeating cycles. That was the first thing I started to notice, was all of these repeating cycles that were happening in my life. It's kind of where you were touching, is you can't hide, you can't push anything away, you can't hide anything, you can't protect yourself from your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, because they'll recycle. It's energy. It's that, I think that's the biggest thing, is very quickly I began to understand that everything is energy, and then I could see how it flows. Then that starts to separate my ideas away from the story, the emotions connected to the story, the words in my mind connected to the story. But it's just like that. That's kind of right where I always am going. I try to aim people into neural reprogramming in a sort of way, by using their awareness, their breath, and their self-talk. What are you saying to yourself? What are you agreeing to? Like, that's something, like you just said, I didn't have the awareness that I was saying such terrible shit to myself. I didn't either. Like, I thought that was normal. I actually thought like most of the things in my self-talk were actually helpful to me, because it was like, well, I'm making myself disciplined and accountable. No, man, you're beating the crap out of yourself. And the thing is your subconscious mind hears everything you say and everything that's said to it, and it believes it to be true. That's
And it's
the
highly
weird.
disempowering.
Yeah. We choose that though. That's the amazing part about our human experience is being able to, adapt. Because it's what I understand us this human experience is. We're the most adaptable thing probably in the universe. We can adapt. We can adapt to absolutely anything. We have so much control through our mind, our consciousness, our thinking, more control than any other animal. We're just not using it. Just like you pointed out, typically we're using our ability to visualize to create negative outcomes because we're trying to control an outcome, trying to control a future because that makes us feel safe. But that's not safe because, like you just said, you're like, yeah, well, the truth is you can think whatever is going to happen is going to happen, but you don't know that because all possibilities are available. And I feel that as I became more open to possibility, I got more possibilities, more awesome possibilities, all sorts of possibilities. Not all of them feel good, some of them do, and those, but it's being open to receive those instead of I have to be in this cyclical grind of life. That's how it used to be for me. I get up, I drink my coffee, I go to work. The work may have different kinds of problems or whatever every day, but my mind, all it knew that was my work was a problem. So I hated my job and I hated my life. I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to, it's a problem. Everything's a problem. But then I started to change a little bit at the end of kind of what I was doing. And I started to be able to become conscious and aware in the moment of where I was and started to be able to reprogram, which is really hard. After you do something a certain way for a quarter century, it's quite difficult to begin to retrain your mind to start to see it in a different aspect. So it becomes really frustrating because it's easy to fall back in the pattern. And I remember that's when I really started to learn about my self-talk because I would catch myself. Well, there you go again, dumbass. You're doing the same thing again. Like, whoa, 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 man. And then my higher mind, my angelic force that's usually with me says, hey, perhaps you could speak inward to yourself as if it's someone you love. How would you talk to someone you're trying to motivate or help, or a child? How would you talk to them? Would you talk to them this way? I was like, oh, certainly not. And so I began that really opened my awareness. Like, oh, how would I talk to someone I love about this, about trying to change?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one. And I love pointing that out to people myself, like, would you say that to a friend? Would you say that to, and they're like, no. And I'm like, well, why are you different? And they're like, I don't know.
That's great. Talk about a little bit of what is the work, what field are you in now? What do you do? Tell people a little bit about what faith does, because you
Yeah.
already do things in the world, and I want you to talk about that.
Yeah. So I'm actually a mental health therapist.
Mm.
I got my master's in social work, and so I've been following that line. I graduated actually December 2020, so it was kind of like all during that time.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was funny because I was doing a little psychic development at that time, and I had this vision of like I was in my apartment and I remember just like everything disappearing and I just saw like this grid and I was like, oh, it's like a blank grid. Like what's going on here? Yeah, because everything was changing.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, so I moved to Colorado and I got my first job after grad school. Working, so I was working substance use, like Medicaid. It was like probably like 98% of people were either on probation or parole, or had like a CPS case. Oh, that was great work. I really love that because that's where, when I say like, oh, I have this like fascination with the human experience and culture, and just like really like loving everyone. And to me, being a therapist, that's really what it's about, is loving everyone, because
Mhm.
people come to me and it's like it's the most beautiful thing, that just like listening to someone is so healing. Like people don't have that. People don't have people who are going to validate them, or just like say like, well, hey, like I'm seeing like you're doing these positive things, and
Mhm.
they're not looking at it and other people aren't looking at it. um yeah, like to me, therapy is like 90% about the human connection. And they really have done some studies on this that sort of prove that. And I haven't read up on like the latest, but I remember learning in my school program that like 60% of what actually like progress is made is based off of like your connection with the client. just that human experience. You can use whatever modality, like it really doesn't matter. Like it, a lot of times doesn't make that much of a difference. Maybe for some things, like there's like trauma focused therapies and things like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's really just that human connection, and I just love meeting people and hearing people's stories, and giving them the platform to explore things that have happened in their lives, and even if just that is so healing.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that's all energy. That's how I can feel all that when you're talking about it. I agree. I agree completely, is making that connection in there. How would you say, uh, or can you say, how your shamanic training has affected how you approach therapy?
Yeah. I think I'm less in my head.
Yeah.
In the beginning, and especially as, a new clinician, like straight out of school, even though we have our internships, but it feels like there's a pressure, like, oh, what do I say to that? Or like, what, but I've really made a move from my head to my heart. And even taking advantage of those spaces where, like, I'm not going to say anything and you're not going to say anything for a minute, like we're just going to sit there and like, wow, yeah,
Hmm.
like, and maybe that feels heavy, and we recognize that, and
Hmm.
we just sit there with it.
Hmm.
um yeah,
That's
and
fantastic.
it's increased, like, just like the connection, and the relating to others in more of like a human rather than mental way.
Hmm. Yeah, well, like you said, yes, I moved out of my head into my heart. Perfect. That's exactly right. Because that's kind of even, a lot of what our training in shamanism is about, is
Mhm.
allowing ourselves to begin to open up into our feeling. It like awakens a deep form of feeling within us through our practice, through what we're connecting with, through our even our group, as our groups come together and those kinds of things. It teaches. I always notice that it teaches my energy body a lot more than it teaches my intellectual mind. That's something
Mhm.
I was like, wow, my heart coherence is a lot greater now than my mind coherence. I try not to let my mind get in the way too much of too many things anymore, because that's how it used to do. It would just kind of run and analyze everything around me. Now it just likes to kind of be open and feel everything. It's aware, it's still analyzing. I just don't place my attention there. Take the attention a different way.
Yeah, and another thing that's helped with is just me managing myself, because it's really important when you're working with others to be able to manage yourself in the space, especially like different energies. People might bring things up that are very relatable to my own past.
Sure.
And or I'm just like feeling the energy that they're putting out. So to have the tools to be able to work with that energy and turn it into something different, and be able to have like the hard conversations, or to just sit in a space that's really difficult because someone's talking about something that was really difficult. Yeah, just being able to manage myself in that way, and to still show up 100% even when energy is coming up that's maybe even triggering me.
Hmm. But that's also a big gift, right? Because now you can be in it, because you just said some of these things, they relate with my story. And the beautiful thing is you're in a position where you can become aware that your triggers are just showing you something about yourself. And then it doesn't have to be this personal kind of thing or a fearful kind of thing. It can just, you can use your conscious mind to, oh, I feel those feelings. What is that saying to me? What is it that it's trying to tell me? That's one of my favorite things, is when I feel triggered in some sort of way. Okay, I'm aware I'm triggered. I'm going to slow my breath down. I'm going to ask myself, what is it that I need to know? What is it trying to tell me? And it's some sort of internal need that's not being met. That's usually what shows up in my reality. And then I can begin to shift that, begin to change that. So it's like while using your gift, you're gaining the gift. That's a beautiful, it's not a mistake, of course, like we all end up right where we need to be, so we can properly grow into what we're meant to become. And, I've met lots of people who are very talented, energetically and spiritually gifted individuals who are in the mental health care field. I think that opens up minds. Like you said, I get to see a lot of different stories and all kinds of stuff. For some of them, that led them into a deep forms of pain because they weren't able to, there's this third dimension idea that when you're around someone with heavy energy, you pick it up and it's their energy and not yours and all these things. But really, where's the interaction happening? It's inside you. And so I think that takes some time for some people to get beyond. Like if I'm around someone and I feel heavy after being around them or while I'm being around them, it's just showing me a part of me that's unhealed. Because otherwise anyone else I can hold space for. Why can't I create space for this person? Oh, it's because I have resistance, because there's a part of me that's vibrating in the same vibrational frequency as they are. But my ego wants to go, it's not me, it's them. That's what it tries to do. Oh, no, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad. Stay away from me. I need to isolate away from all other people. You'll even see memes and things like that where people are like, well, I'm an empath, so I feel everyone's stuff. And I like to put in, it usually pisses people off, I'll put asterisk unhealed empath. There's a little bit there. Yeah, no, that's not empath. That's unhealed empath. That's what's happening right there. And then they go, oh, well, first they get pissed. And then they go, oh, I guess you're probably right. I should pay attention to that.
Yeah, and it gets easier. I mean, the more you work on yourself, the more healing you do, the easier it gets. You can go to this type of work every day and just be like drained and drained and drained, and like I've had that experience. And there's also days when I don't have that experience now, where I can spend a day working or a week working, and then like when something does pop up where I'm like, wow, I feel drained, and then it's like, okay, let's take a look at that. Like what's going on there that we can heal so that I can have a better personal experience while I'm helping all these others.
I mean, it definitely helps to have the tool sets we have, to have the knowledge, the tool sets, the energetic connections that we have. I mean, I can't think of anything that I've noticed that's more beautiful is when I sit down with healing with someone and, they're not a shaman too. And I start to run Saman Chikui. I start to pull the vertical column of light down me, and I can feel it starting to affect their energy field in some sort of way. So since I just said that, are you aware that you're pulling a Saman Chikui? Because I can feel yours. I can feel the energy moving through you. So
I didn't have a direct awareness, but I noticed I was starting to feel jittery, so I guess it just happened.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. Like it just starts happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the training I've always said it's about is, even in my trainings that I do from my own shamanic teachings, it's always about that. It's always about this becomes so repetitive that you don't have to think about it anymore. I don't usually have to think about Saman Chikui. Instead, I become aware that it's happening. Oh, what's happening? Oh, natural. I'll have something go. I could be in a store and there's someone in front of me and I can feel they're heavy and, maybe they're injured. I'll notice like they have a limp, or I'll become aware that something's going on in their body and I'll start to draw a Saman Chikui. And then what my intention is to begin to radiate the energy. So that way it's coming in and it starts to come off me like ripples. And I'm just giving it to them. I don't know what's going to happen. My ego wants to be like, ask this person if you can touch him and heal him right here. I'm like, no, I don't think they're open to that. Don't do that. That's just your ego wants to do that. You can give anybody any energy you want to give them just through your intention, and then you let go and you don't have any expectation. Maybe I'm not meant to heal that person's physical malady. Maybe the energy I'm giving them is going to open up a new dimension of consciousness as they walk out the door or later on when they're at home. And that leads to their healing later. Healing happens in so many ways. What I try to help other shamans understand and stuff is try not to get too attached to outcomes. Don't think that your work has to yield a big shift right now. In my experience, that's not always what happens. Most of the time, it's seed planting. It's doing the little things, getting that beautiful energy into the space and then allowing the person to kind of grow and proliferate on their own. And then that's where the true healing happens, is in that growth. The ego loves, I've met other shamans. When I first started, it was like that. I want to take away everybody's pain. I want no one to have pain. I can help everybody remove their pain. But what I noticed is a lot of those people, their pain would just come back because I didn't teach them what's causing the pain, right? So then that doesn't help them at all. So I'm better off allowing the person to stay in pain and teaching them first how to manage their mind about the pain. And, because pain is generally pretty much related in the same way as like an emotional experience. It's like an emotional reaction. And what I've noticed is most people, if you begin to help them shift their energy around pain, they're able, one, first to handle it and accept it. And by being able to handle and accept it, it begins to change their nervous system frequency rate and starts to move them into, if they're all open to, out of that sympathetic dominant state into a more parasympathetic dominant state, which changes their thought flow. Now new forms of energy, new consciousness can enter. And that takes me back to, like, I love to quote scripture and things, because I see the truth in those things that are available to us. Is like, I look at it as like, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And I think that's really true healers. Is I love to not let my ego get in the way. And if there's people around me, all around me, by the way, in this community that I've done subtle healing for, and I'm aware it's completely changed their reality. They don't know what I've done, though. They're unaware of that. And so the ego is like, how come I don't get recognition, is what it wants to do. Like, it doesn't need it. It doesn't matter. All you're doing is trying to create change. And we're like, oh, okay, I can accept that kind of thing. Like, because there'll be people that'll come to me and, I'll do an axiotonal line healing on them. And, because their ego mind's like, well, I feel something, but I don't feel totally different. I don't know if that worked, kind of thing. But as a couple weeks go by, their whole reality starts to shift, and maybe a new medicine modality shows up and everything. They have no idea how that happened. I do. And for me, that's the beauty, to kind of be able to stand back and watch your work and be like, wow, that's really amazing what's happened there. To watch people grow. I love to watch people grow. It's my favorite thing.
Me too. I love it. It kind of makes me curious about like what other energy stuff is happening like that I'm not really aware of, because people, they're coming into my office, like my energy space, and I'm holding that space with my energy. So it just makes sense that some other energetic things would be happening there that I'm not even thinking about.
Yeah. The thing is a lot of those things come to you later. They may come to you in a reflection in your reality, because for every person you lovingly help, in our tradition, this is described as I need energy in, it equals, at the minimum equals, if not is less than the energy coming back. So by you being able just to be loving in a space, in any sort of space, that vibrates off of you into the field all around you. And it shows up in some form or another. Just like how when we're heavy, it shows up in some form or another. Kind of does the same thing. But yeah, there's lots I don't understand. That'll be way later. It might sometimes, because for me now, what happens is, like I used to say, let's think back to this particular, situation or thing, that event that happened. Well, I don't say think back anymore, because I feel back. I can go back, and this is where our true kind of shamanic journeying happens. Your memory is a gateway. It's a portal to, it's like time travel. It's a gateway or a portal to another frequency of consciousness. And often what we can do is, as our consciousness grows, we can go back to events that happen and we can be there. It's like you can show up there and you can become aware of things you weren't aware of the first time you were there. And I love to watch certain things from my third person's perspective, or my angel's perspective, because you've always been there. That's the thing. Everything, you've never been alone. Everything's always been, every experience is available to you. Some of them that we block, because the subconscious mind is a tape recorder. It records everything, even if the conscious mind is unaware. But what we can do is we can begin to access those frequencies of reality. And that was one of my first major self healings, was going back into a traumatic experience as a child and being able to watch it from a third person perspective, which gave me a different idea. It changed the story, thus changing the now, which changes the future. So it's like a systemic kind of effect, being able to do those things, feeling back. So lots of the things you go through every day, I have a feeling, especially now that we're talking about it, there's going to be some sort of awarenesses that come up, like, wow, I didn't recognize that's what was happening. Because just like we were talking, a lot of it now is automatic. Once we're Alto Messiah priests, we're initiated into a very deep level of energy healing and magic, essentially, that's prehistoric. Before, these come from societies without written language, which blows my mind. That just blows my mind. This super advanced people that created pretty much like the first empire, created the first set of roads and navigation and the awarenesses and knowledge that they had. These people didn't have a written language. And for our minds, that sounds, oh, are these people savages? Oh, no, they were just far different than we were. And then they start to show, I can't remember what they're called now. I was just watching something about them the other day about the strings and things that they would braid in certain ways and put knots in them in certain depths. And what they're starting to find out is that some of these things is their syllables. It's telling a story in syllables. So it's like I've been learning some new things about these, the ways that the ancient Inca used to pass down story and intelligence and information without having a written language.
I remember learning. So my undergrad is in anthropology, and so I remember learning in one of my anthropology classes that although we look back at hunter-gatherer societies as like, well, like they had to like do all this for their survival, and it was so hard, and all of this. And she ended up saying that although that was true, they did about 80% less work than we do in the society. And so, like, where does that energy go if we're not always focused on this and that and the other, like all these things that distract us in our current environment?
Yeah. Plus, it was a little bit different because at that time, most of your awareness was focused on your survival, like your actual survival. We don't really have that anymore. We have jobs and all these things. Like you could actually, if you wanted to right now, you could just lay down on the floor and you could just quit. Somebody's eventually going to come scoop you up and take you to a hospital or something. That's kind of, that's where we're living now in the United States, per se. Like if you wanted to, you could just quit. If you decide right now, I'm going to go catatonic and I'm not going to talk anymore and I'm not going to move and I'm going to poop my pants, somebody's going to come and they're going to pick you up. This is what's going to happen. Your significant other will come home. He'll try to straighten you out. That ain't going to work. And you'll go somewhere. So you're always safe pretty much. I mean, where we're at, I can't say for the world. I'm saying in our lives, we're already safe. So there's no actual issue or problem. So the ego creates problems because that's what it likes to do. It likes to create solutions. So we're not actually thinking about things, in ways that can, benefit us. We're actually usually thinking about what ifs, all the what ifs start to happen. And that's what the ego kind of builds off of. Instead of before, it was like, all right, where am I going to go find some food today? I got to make sure I build a fire. I got to but it wasn't worried. It just was, I'm aware that I have to do these things and it's going to be okay. And now, that was before media and all kinds of things started poisoning our minds, teaching us. That's the most amazing thing to me is when I found out sometime back because I like to do like hypnosis type work. And so I was using it on a woman for a type of reversion. And we were able to find out, I already knew this about myself, but I didn't realize it was everybody. A lot of us, we have personality quirks and ideas and forms that we downloaded through television because we're a sum of everything we've ever seen, so like it was really weird to me when I started to figure out that like parts of my personality are built around like Clint Eastwood and like Charles Bronson, like these guys I used to watch when I was especially as a little kid. My dad was showing me these. When you're between ages of 0 and 7, you're very open and like a sponge. And I remember I started to, in my own work, like, oh wow, that's why I thought this was okay. I've tricked myself at some point in my life. I used to think that violence was an answer or was okay. I mean, I was brought up that way, and TV makes it that way. Somebody gives you a hard time, punch them in the face. That's kind of how it was, But then I started to realize, like, oh, these are things that have been implanted into my mind. Not really who I am.
Yeah, it's kind of a scary thought. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on TV that I certainly don't want implanting in me.
Well, then you got to sit there and think about for a second, wow, look at all the things I have watched. And like, how has that affected my mind? And then, not letting yourself get afraid of it, just understanding, well, I've taken this stuff in and maybe I can pay attention to how, back to the questions is my favorite one is, why do I do what I do? Why do I do what I do? Why am I doing that? Why am I choosing that? Like, even if it's not something that I'm perceiving as heavy or negative, if I'm doing something that I think is good, sometimes you find out that thing you're doing isn't really rooted in good. Like people do this all the time. Well, why are you doing this? It's because I love him or I love her. Do you realize that your reaction is coming through fear? Oh, yeah. Well, that's not love. Do you see? Like, I understand you love them. So since you love them, you're afraid and you're acting out of fear. Oh, yeah. So that's the mind gets confused. Like, well, that's not love. That's fear. And how am I supposed to help someone? How can I help you? If you're vibrating in fear and I'm vibrating in fear, how are we going to change? We cannot.
Yep. Got to step into that higher mind, get a different perspective.
Mm-hmm. Magic Mike said he wants you to sing. Are you going to sing today?
I was definitely not planning on singing today.
I invite you to if you'd like. I'm glad to witness these things. You should get out your Sami punch bells.
I think. Let's see. Yeah, I do. I usually have them on the desk.
I love it. I love Sami punches. I'm not sure what he's asking. I'm trying to. Often when he communicates to me, it takes me a little while to pick up what he's asking. How many of us on 0.5 or 5? I don't have an awareness of what he's asking me. Mike, if you're still here, ask me again. Try again. Good morning, Anthony and Faith. Hi, Brianna Burgess. Before we continue, I just want to let everyone know the floor is open. This is Ask the Shaman, so we would love to hear any questions, or is there a particular topic or anything you would like us to explore? I think those would be fantastic things. It's all open for that kind of thing, and we have Sister Faith here today. I'm very happy that you've come on here. I actually am having a great time here with you. You don't know what that means, Mike. What's that mean? He's quite the cryptic priest. But when you do catch up to what he's trying to say, it usually are quite good gems, is what I can pick up from him. Texe Paqo. So he's picking up. That's the first thing I noticed about him is when we were on retreat. I was like, wow, look at him. He's got a cosmic frequency coming into him. I'm not used to seeing those because it's rare. I collect cosmic frequencies as well. His is just more focused. It's a very focused beam of consciousness that's coming from like a cosmic source. And so that's why I think a lot of it tries to translate through as human, and it's hard to understand for the other human. But when I can open up and I can feel his frequency, then I really get it. Okay, now I get it. He's saying I'm driving. All right, I got you. So he can't really expand on it right now because he's driving. See, now I caught up. I understand now. Yeah.
It's kind of funny that he asked me to sing. It really takes me back.
Yeah.
And actually something that I've been working on, because, after the retreat, I ended up getting some crystal singing bowls. And I play them for one of my groups every week for like the first 15 minutes. It's like a 3-hour group. So for like the first 15 minutes, I play them. And then I've been like just working on like the throat nawi and working on putting my voice into this world, which is, part of the reason why I showed up here today. But I do want to start using my voice more. And I even had thought about taking some singing lessons, but even with just the work that I've been doing, I find myself like having more of a range when I'm singing in the car, and just like, it felt really rusty at first, and sometimes it still does because of just like the lack of use. But I am excited to get back into that, and maybe next time on the show I'll sing.
Yeah, you could be prepared for it. Like, it's not like being thrown on the spot. All right, Faith, sing.
Yeah. What do I sing?
Okay. I'll try. Yeah. I do it all the time, but it's not. But I love to do it. Like I love to let light language flow through me and other things like that. I'm not a great singer, but I don't care because it's not what it's about. It's about moving frequency from me, and I can agree to that. Though I feel like my ability to sing has improved because I do it all the time. I love to do it in the shower. Like, so I get my cold shower going. I usually get a little playlist, like something that lasts 12 minutes or so for my shower. And then what I do is, while I'm in there, I just be singing. I just sing. And then when I come out, usually my daughter and Mary, they're like, happy much? Like, hey, do you think that guy's happy? They'll say funny stuff like that to me.
Yeah. Sounds like a great way to start the morning.
It is. Anytime. Sometimes I have a big speaker that I bring in there, and I have a shower concert. And that's usually when I do contrast training. I stay in there in a while. I go freezing cold, burning hot, freezing cold, burning hot. I've been doing a lot. I'll talk more about cold exposure in a minute. Patty Law says, how do you shut your subconscious mind down at night when you sleep? Well, Patty, you don't. Your subconscious mind never shuts off. It runs all the time. So what you're asking me is, I think, is how do you shut off your incessant thinking mind, which is your conscious mind? It's your thinking. That's the thinking mind. So how do you do that? So you have to shift yourself out of one frequency of consciousness into the other, or another way to say it is you have to change your brainwave rate. So I had insomnia for most of my life. Started when I was a young kid, and I would go through phases. It would kind of come in waves where I'd probably sleep okay for a certain period of time, and then it would start to less and less and less. And then I actually got to a point one time when I was in my 20s, and this was, I wasn't on any drugs either. I was on medication that was given to me from my doctor, but I wasn't using any like cocaine or anything at the time. But I stayed up for 22 days straight without any sleep. According to the medical books, you're only supposed to live about 11. So I doubled that somehow. And it was pretty intense and pretty crazy. But what I use is I use breath. I use my breath. Your breathing has everything to do with how your brain works. And I think I've probably explained this to you before, but most people, they forget because it's just too easy. Like, what do you mean? Like, oh yeah, I mean exactly what I'm telling you. Your breath has everything to do with how your mind works. So the first step is, when you want to get control when you're trying to sleep, is you want to put yourself in a position to sleep. So first, you want to not use your phone. I love when people go online and they go, I can't sleep. You have a phone in your hand and it's putting blue light into your pineal gland. It's going to make you awake. It's going to shift your circadian rhythm and make your brain think it's time for you to be awake. So that's the first thing. Got to put the phone down. And my favorite thing is, for people who have trouble sleeping, put your phone down at least an hour before bedtime. Before bedtime. Before bedtime. Get rid of the phone, get rid of the electronics before bedtime. All right. One of my favorite things to do is I like to watch something educational. Like, I watch these very like esoteric teachings and things on YouTube. It's usually very calm language, very calm music. Sometimes I like to watch like some binaural beats, and I just kind of relax and I fall into my breath. It's important to fall into your breath, and to really shift that nervous system, you have to extend your exhales. So it's breathing in, extending your exhale, long exhale. And then you start telling yourself, I'm sleepy, I'm tired. This is comfortable. You start picturing out. Sometimes I like to softly picture myself sleeping, and what does that look like? How does it feel? What does it feel like for my body to sleep? And now you're training your mind to put yourself into sleepy time. Sometimes I even say to my mind, I'll say out loud, like, body, it's time to relax. That works too. I love to see that. Body, it's time to relax. Most people think like, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, it does, because you're training the thing you thought was your subconscious mind. You're trained. The subconscious mind never sleeps. It doesn't need sleep. It's always aware. It's always awake. It's always running. The conscious mind, however, can run awry. It can do all kinds of things, especially when we're trying to sleep, particularly when we have unresolved data. Usually what I found out from my past, the times I wasn't sleeping, it's because there was unresolved emotional data trying to rise and release or transmute. And I just keep pushing it down. Don't got time for that. I don't want to see that. And we're living in a time where we're going to see that recycling pattern happen faster, the spiral of healing. Like, I'm always trying to help people understand healing is not this linear hill that just continues to go up. It's a spiral that goes up, and you're going to revisit experiences. You're going to revisit things you thought you were over, because as you're growing, you have more ability to process more of the information in the data or the trauma. So it's not abnormal. And the thing is, you want to be open to when you notice the recycling pattern. Most people, I've even worked with other shamans. It's one of my favorite stories of one of our people. She came to me one day and was telling me about the struggling that she was having. And I pointed out to her that I could pick up, I feel this is an inner child kind of thing. Well, she got a little testy, because, that's a big thing in the spiritual mind. The spiritual ego is it thinks that age and time have anything to do with spiritual development. It doesn't. It simply doesn't. Your age does not mean you have more spiritual development. Your time in the field of spiritual work doesn't make you more developed than someone with less time. It has to do with our frequency, is what it comes down to. And that's varying across all forms. But I was able to point out to my friend, I was like, okay, she became very resistant to that. I've already done my childhood work. I did that in 98 and all these things. I'm like, oh, okay, I see where we're at now. So I just kind of left it alone. And all I said to her is like, listen, I want you to inspect your resistance and let it show you where you're not free. That's all I said. Just inspect. Don't do anything else now. Now it's I've triggered you. Now I want you to inspect your resistance. And I got a call the next day as she sat there and inspected resistance. You're absolutely right. You're totally right. Now I get it. Now I understand. Yeah, nothing's wrong. It's just we're meant to recycle these things. And they love to show up when it's bedtime. That's when they love to show up, because you're trying to lay down, and what happens? The mind starts to run. What about this? What about that? Blah, 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 blah. Well, you have to understand that's all a frequency of fear. Where's the fear coming from? Why are you afraid? You know, I also have had some of my most profound healings while I'm trying to sleep, because it opens me up to ask the proper questions. And then I ask the questions, I find some answers, and I'm out like a light. Change just goes right out. But hands down, the number one thing one can do to fall asleep, breathe your face off. First, just go ham, just go crazy. Just breathe in and out through your nose, big and deep. Get all oxygenated, then just relax and slow your breath down. Slow it down nice and slow. One of my favorites is kind of the pattern of like, smell the flower, cool the soup. Extend those exhales and just fall into it. And then before you know it, you're out like a light. Patty's back. She says, I have no problem falling asleep, but staying asleep. I wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. wide awake. I will try the breath work at night. Well, yeah, that's exactly why are you waking up? So now I need you to pay attention to, I'm waking up at 3 or 4 a.m. wide awake. What's going on? What is happening? I need you to pay attention to what you're feeling and what your thoughts are. Because often this is your spiritual guidance. So you're pointing to right at a time that's very common for your spirits to begin to communicate. Early in my development, 3 or 4 a.m. was when most of my spiritual work was happening. So a lot of this has to do, I believe, with sensitivity to your spirit is starting to open. So it's okay at 3 or 4 a.m. You don't have to get up wide awake, open your eyes, close your eyes. Be aware you're still awake, but you're not saying, oh, I can't sleep. I can't fall back asleep. That starts anxiety. That's usually what happens to most people, because they'll fall asleep. They wake up later like, oh, I'm awake. Oh, and then it starts trying to calculate how many hours of sleep I've had, how many I'm going to get. Oh, I'm going to feel like crap tomorrow. Is this good enough? It starts asking all these fucking crazy questions. And then that's where it usually goes. What I like to do if I wake up, I wake up and I say, I'm awake for a purpose. And so then I don't judge it. I don't say, oh, this is going to be hard, because the thing is, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be totally okay. So I let go. And then I start to shift my breath, shifting your breath. And then I'm saying, I'm open and ready to receive. I'm open and ready to. Now I'm not bound up. I'm open and ready to receive. And then usually what happens is some sort of communication begins to happen. For some people, it's touching, tapping. I have lots of my clients and soul family. They tell me about those things. They have these interactions at night, touching, all kinds of things starts to happen. And what I always say is, go into it. You have a choice. You can try to be afraid and escape it, or you can understand that you're safe already and you go into it. A lot of people are terrified when they first start having paranormal experiences. So I guess what I'm saying, Patty, is I have an awareness that you're probably going to be having some paranormal experiences. So just open yourself up a little bit. And if you need any personal guidance, you can always reach out to me.
Well, I'd like to say something on that question.
Please do.
You know, when that first question there, like, oh, how do I shut off my subconscious mind? The question that I hear from that is, how do I avoid myself? Because I remember it was several years ago. I was like, oh, I'm gonna figure out lucid dreaming. I'm gonna do this, and I looked up the techniques. And when you first start learning lucid dreaming, the first thing that happens is you start to remember your dreams. Mm-hmm. Oh man, did I then have an awareness that all of my dreams were nightmares, and it was absolutely awful, and I stopped. I stopped doing that. But it really is just a reflection of all the things that we're not facing during our day. And so, like you said, like, well, you're not going to avoid yourself. You're going to have to face that. And so a couple of ways that, popped up in my head that you can do that is, well, number one, I think breathing is great. I think personally, before I did breathing, I would first like write in a journal or something, because I have the experience that when I put my thoughts on paper, suddenly they stop cycling. Like I'll have like the same like circular thoughts like over and over again, blah blah blah, just like that incessant thinking. I'll write it down and that'll really quieten it, because suddenly I'm giving those thoughts space. I'm acknowledging them, I'm recognizing them, I'm tending to them. So putting it down on paper can be something that's helpful. And the other thing is you can create other spaces. So one thing that I find in my life a lot is that I'm constantly like scrolling or on the phone or doing this or that, and just like the monkey mind is hanging out. And the more that I create space for myself to just exist without those distractions, or like, doing the blackening, if you create a space, like go into a dark room, just sit there with yourself for a while. It will be uncomfortable,
Mhm.
and that space will allow those subconscious thoughts to start coming up. And then you can be, aware of them and acknowledge them in a way that you might not necessarily during your waking life. And so once you can do that, it'll start to quiet down. And then I bet you the sleep will become a little bit better.
Mhm. I agree. That's great. Thank you, Faith. That was I love the insight. I love how you picked up, because I completely agree. How do I escape myself? That's usually, we don't know that our mind's asking those things most of the time. Angela O'Connor says, "Hi, Faith. When people tell me their problems, I tend to relate my own story or offer solutions. Since you're a therapist, is it better to just listen / hold space?"
Oh, wow. Yeah. So it's definitely going to depend. Right.
Right.
And I think what it depends on is like, what does that person need? And you can ask them that. I think it's becoming way more socially acceptable to be like, what do you need? Or to tell someone what you need in that moment, because it's going to be different. Number one, from person to person. And number two, like from like, yeah, just like time to time, whatever they're experiencing, they might have an experience and they need you to hold space, and then they need you to like, have that best friend moment where you're just totally agreeing with everything that they say, and then they might need space again, and then they might need to, talk about it a little bit more in depth where you're not just agreeing. But it's really just going to depend person to person, time to time. And I recommend asking, what do you need right now? Do you need advice? Do you need me to hold this space? Do you just need to like vent it out? They'll tell you.
Hmm. I think what I like to do is I'll ask people when I sense that, as I'll say, "How can I support you today?" They seem to respond well to that. So, like, what do you want? What do you need? Like, sometimes it's like, well, how can I'm here? You're helping them understand I'm here to support you. How can I support you today? And then they'll tell you, like, people, and sometimes they'll say, "I don't know." And then right after that, I love that when you ask someone, like, "How can I support you today?" And they go with their knee jerk reaction, the program reaction, "I don't know." And then they start to tell you, like, it's usually, "I don't know." Well, you know what? It usually goes like that. It's pretty intense. Mike said I had to restart the phone. Well, that's where we go. Me and Faith breaking the internet. I'd also love to learn more about Tony's fitness routine. I have quite a vast routine of things I do. So if you're asking me, so fitness, what would I group under there? I feel like all of it's fitness, like my breath work, my balance training, my headstanding, everything. All of it's kind of, my cold immersion. I feel like those are all parts of my fitness routine. So if you're asking me, like, so I strength train, I'm into strength training. I like to do that. Not so much powerlifting anymore. Sometimes it's that heavy, but I like to do strength training at least like 5 times a week. The reason being is, one, it works really well for your neurology. You're forcing your body to generate force. For most people, they don't really understand that when you first start working out. A lot of, we call those newbie gains. When your first gains start to come, that usually has to do with neurological expansion, because when you're teaching your body how to generate contractile force, you're really putting a lot of frequency and energy into your central nervous system. So it's a very powerful tool. I like to do multi-joint exercises where I'm challenging different stabilizer muscles in my body and things. I'm over 40, so I try to make sure that I include a lot of multi-joint movements, which are also good for hormone response in the body. Also, I try to get everybody like, listen, if you want to find something that's really good for you, because people are like, what about a workout? And you'll see people, I've been a trainer. I started being a personal trainer in 1999. And I've seen that lots of people, they don't really understand that it's a lifestyle. It's not like a means to an end. A lot of people are like, well, I'm going to work out for 3 months. I'm going to get jacked and then it's over kind of thing. Like, no, it's a lifestyle. You want to choose this as a lifestyle. You want to choose this as a healthy kind of lifestyle. Lots of people get into exercise, and myself included, and it can become an escapism. Because of all of the beautiful chemicals that are created by the mind and the brain and the body through exercise. So you'll see that. I mean, as a healer, I see people that come to me that have impeccable diets, they have impeccable exercise routines, and impeccable all other aspects of their life, but they're still struggling mentally and emotionally because they're escaping into their exercise. Like I have this one woman, she's fantastic. I love her so much, but she cannot be still when the body's telling her to be still. A small injury will arise. All she does is do everything she can to heal that so she can get back out into running. What are you running from? Those are the things. So exercise, I'm big about movement. Movement is medicine. If you want to bring longevity into your body, use some weight, put some resistance. You can use bands too and things like that, but resistance training, because by using the resistance, you're sending blood in on a deeper level. I see everything as energy. You're focusing information into cellular structures of your body. By doing this creates vast health. So I can tell you I'm pushing almost a half century. I'm 47 years old, which I'm actually 11, but I feel very healthy and spry and everything works good. And I would think that I could credit that to my long-term use of strength training. It's been very good. I don't have shoulder problems or anything like that, like I know a lot of my peers do, guys that haven't been on the same journey. So I don't know, maybe that hits a couple things. Mike says 5 Paqos, 5 Samanchukuis. See, he's pointing out, see, that's what I mean. He has this very deep level of cosmic intellect. So when he's showing me these 5s, I'm aware of 5. And then I'm seeing, and this is what I say, like when we put our energy together, we're a lot stronger. We do this in our classes and things and in our meetings. And I agree. Faith has an angelic frequency for healing. Exactly. Precisely. Patty says, thank you. Thank you, Patty. And it says, oh, I love those answers. How can I support you today? What do you need from me? A Nike. Angela also, she went to Hatan Karpai. She hasn't been formally trained in Zane's class yet. I'm planning on having her in one of my courses, but she is technically an initiated Paqo. So she's on her path. So good job, Angela. I like your questions. You always have great questions. I love people that have great questions. I'd love to be questioned. I can't think of anything that makes me happier. It's to try to download, understand, and find answers to things.
I admire people who have good questions. Sometimes I'll be watching your live stream and you're like questions, and then I like panic and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have any questions. What do I ask you next? And then Jill's on there like blah 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 blah, all these great questions, and I'm like, wow, Jill, that's amazing.
Jill is a great questioner, highly conscious being, and she has a lot of experience. So she's always brought great questions to me. Yeah, I love great questions. They're my favorites. You just learn so much more through questions. I mean, I could just I can sit here and talk about anything for a long time, but I'd rather it be someone else's questions. Hi, Jilly Beans. She's here. Jilly, you got any questions today? I would love to hear a question. I can't believe we've already been through 1, 2, 3, an hour and 23 minutes.
Yep.
That's amazing. Faith, what are you working on now? What are you doing now? Is there anything you want to promote? Let's talk about those things.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get more into the energy space. It's funny because like I've been in this space and yet it kind of feels like a debut or whatever because I've always been like the one in the background, but I'm putting myself out there now. And I did create a website. It's soulinspiredhealing.org. And I just over the weekend created an Instagram space. It's soul.inspired.healing. And let's see, I don't think we've finalized where we're going to be live streaming with Mary. I think it might be Instagram. We'll see. So yeah, I'm putting myself out there in the energy space. I definitely have a lot of healing to offer, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, visit the website. That's kind of what I'm working towards. Like, I really love my work, and I also want to be able to provide like just energy services. So ideally, I would think I would be doing like half and half, like in the future. It's a little interesting kind of like how it works like as like a licensed individual, and then there's like rules and stuff, so I'll probably keep the businesses separate. And also with licensure, it's like it matters like what state you're licensed in and things like that, but with energy work I can do that with anyone. So yeah, that's where I'm moving into
for now. Hopefully we change the world enough before it gets there, before they try to start putting legislation on energy work, because there's just more people rising every day. Every day I'm meeting and seeing more people all over the world, seeing people in my community coming online, having the ability to connect with energy and perform energy healings. I think we're going to see a lot of that, because it's understood. There's been energy healing for a long time, but what's happening, consciousness is growing. So understanding really how it works and what it does, I think, is beginning to become more like acute, a stronger kind of thing. Jill says, today I'm a listener. That's okay, Jilly. You can choose your way. My sister and I love you, Jilly Bean. I call her Master Shifu because I recognize her. There's several other people too. I was with her in a Zendo and a alternate reality or past life, one would say. So I can recognize her. We know each other from a distant reality, another reality. So, and now here we are. We all do. That's the fun part. Like when Mike says, talking about the angelic frequency of healing, that's right, because we're part of an angelic alliance. That's what's brought us here.
I also just would like to say that I'm also putting myself out there as a spiritual mentor. So if you just need, wanting to talk to someone in a spiritual space, kind of like start to advance the spiritual mindset and, gain that awareness, that's something that I'll be stepping into as well.
Exciting. I'm so excited for you. That's fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. Licensure. There's going to be a lot of people that run into that because, the government wants to try to control what happens. So like you said, I'll just have to go into two, and that's okay. You can be in two different places at once.
Yeah.
By location. All right, let me talk real quick. So tomorrow, 6 p.m., I'll be on with Don Zano for Soar. Come soar with us. The Spiritual Odyssey of Awakening and Renewal. Tomorrow's topic will be, we'll be discussing the importance of ceremony and ritual for spiritual development. Let's see.
I'm really excited for that.
Also, let's see. That's tomorrow. So on the 4th, Thursday, we'll be having some online events. So virtual, this will be a virtual event, New Year energy clearing. So we'll be doing an energy clearing where we're getting rid of all the old energy from the old version, opening new energy for the new version. These are beautiful exercises for all peoples to learn. Experienced, non-experienced, open to everybody. Just come on in and check it out. I'm going to continue to try to offer as many online and virtual programs as I can. I have some new ideas and things too, because I just want to continue to try to reach as far out as I can. And that's just kind of what I'm geared to do now. Virtual healing circle. I love those. That's going to be on Sunday, the 7th at 7 p.m. So if you're looking for healing, want to learn more about healing, be part of a circle, a group of people that are coming together with the intention to heal, these things are wildly powerful. So you want to come check those out. Again, no experience necessary. You don't have to be an energy healer. You don't have to be a priest. You don't have to be any label. You can just show up there. And what I do is I recommend to you, if there's any awareness or any curiosity at all, go into it, because there's a reason why it's happening. It's calling you there. If there's any curiosity, try not to hesitate and come right into there, because that's usually when people do their best, is when they just don't try to talk themselves out of it. 111. All right. I love 111, 111 portal and new moon at Sacred Water. So that's going to be an in-person event here in our area. So if nobody's come, we just had one last Thursday at Sacred Waters. That was amazing. It was amazing. So many people showed up, new people, people from out of town, all kinds of things. We had a room full of energy in there, and it was just amazing. One of my most favorite ones at Sacred Waters to date. But we'll be working with the 111 portal and the new moon at Sacred Waters, 7 p.m., 111. Saturday the 13th, Ascend and Awaken at Yogi's Karma in North Ridgeville. So this is a private residence. It's a really cool place. A friend of ours, Chrissy, who is Yogi's Karma. She's a yoga teacher. She's amazing, amazing being. We'll be having another event at her house at 6 p.m. on Saturday. So we can't tell you the address. It's in North Ridgeville. I can tell you that, but I can't give you the address until you sign up. But she has a great space, and the last one we did there was really, really amazing. So we're looking forward to that. Something we haven't done in a while is coming up here on the 20th, and that's a holistic fair. We haven't done a holistic fair in a while, and so now it's time. We want to do a holistic fair, and that's for Harmonic Journeys. Harmonic Journeys is doing a holistic fair at West Shore Unitarian Church. That's from we'll be there from 1:30 to 2:30, and actually I am doing a public speaking event there. So you can come on down, and I'm not even sure exactly what I'm talking about yet, but I imagine it's going to be having to do with healing and probably breath is probably what it'll come down to. Let's see, a new place. We'll be going to a place in Akron called Hug. I can't remember what the words stand for. The letters HUG. It stands for something, and it looks like a really cool space. It's going to be something new. Full moon at Sacred Waters at 125, and then ice bath mini retreats at Old Brooklyn Nutrition on the 27th. So anybody that's looking to get deeper into cold water immersion, it's awesome to do them in these groups. When we do these cold baths, we don't just do them the standard way with just a cold bath. We create like a really beautiful spiritual experience where we add flowers into the water and prayer and all kinds of things. So it becomes more of like a beautiful form of baptism for you to be able to cleanse yourself, for you to be able to kind of wash away the stuff you no longer need and bring in the stuff you want. Me and Faith were talking a little bit before we got on, because Faith just did a cold plunge. When was it? Was that yesterday or the day before?
That was yesterday. Yeah, it was to bring in the new year.
So it's pretty cool. Go check out her page. You can see that on there. It's on there. She does a nice jump into what looks like a very frigid mountain lake.
It was a very frigid
What was
mountain lake.
What was the water temp around freezing?
Well, I don't know what the temperature was, but I mean, we were standing on ice. What they do is they cut a hole in it, and then they put like a little mat there, and then they put a ladder in it. But yeah, that's on my Facebook page. It was so beautiful, and Evergreen Lake is my favorite lake. So it was just, it was a real joy to get to use the Evergreen Lake for my first icy cold plunge like that.
It looked really cool. It looked great, and it was a nice time. But water, we were talking about how water has memory, and water has the ability to heal us, and it connects with all of the cellular structures of our body. So when you use your intention, because your intention drives all energy movement. So when you use your intention and you get in that tub, and at first you get in it shocking, and I help you get control of your breath. And as you get control of your breath, you start to slow down. And then what we do is we spend like a whole minute to a minute and 30 seconds where I take you into the mindset of I'm releasing all that no longer serves me, or maybe some other words. I might have an awareness of something in particular that you need to focus and let go of. And I help you to release those things, and you're letting that go through your body heat. This is an energy exchange. Your energy exchange is coming through release of body heat. And then after you release everything you need, you drink in Mother Water's divine intelligence. She has all the intelligence that's ever been and ever going to be. She has it available to her, and you can ask for that. And using your intention, again, dictates what kind of frequencies you come. What do you want to bring into your life? What do you need? What's important, and where do you need support in your life? So some of us, it's I need abundance, and abundance may not always be money. Abundance can be abundance of health, abundance of quiet time, abundance of family. All of those things encapsulate under abundance for me. So opening up yourself to receive. So then it becomes a really beautiful thing for all of us to do. And then usually what I do is at the end, I let everyone take one of the flower heads home. You take one of those flower heads, because we'll use usually like big sunflower heads or something. I don't know what we'll be using in the next one, but it's usually what we use is some big head flowers. And then each participant, what I have them do is set their intentions or like a prayer with the flower of like healing, not just for themselves, but for everybody. And then all that collective energy and those beautiful heads of the flowers, which I'm very aware of energy, I'm able to see how the heads of the flowers actually draw in columns of light. It's flowering. Flowers draw light to them. So it's actually energizing the tub. It's an amazing thing. And I usually go last because what I like to do is drink up all the energy in there and use it. I do some huchamikwi while I'm in there, devouring some of the heavy energy, transforming it, and then taking in all the light that's available. So I recommend those. They're super cool. And it's a cool place too. Old Brooklyn Nutrition. It's a nice little store over by the Cleveland Zoo. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I got to talk about. Faith, is there anything else you want to add this morning before we roll out of here?
Well, not necessarily in addition, but just highlighting what we talked about previously. Like really seeing, the gifts inside yourself. And it can be hard to see at first, but don't worry, they're there. I think even the things that we don't like about ourselves sometimes that holds the gift too. It really just comes down to self-acceptance and believing yourself, which are things that I think we all work on. And I know particularly me, I definitely work on that as well. So yeah, I just like to shine the light in that area, encourage everyone to try and find those things about themselves, your own unique gifts.
Thank you so much, Faith. I would love for you to be on here more regularly. So now that you've broke through, you've come through and you broke through, I want to invite you back as soon as you're ready, and whatever you want to bring. I can feel that now there's something open. There's an openness about you now that is this really, really cool. So I would love for you to be regular and show up on the show. I have a few other people. Maybe we'll have a panel. I think maybe you, me, and Patrick. Yeah, I think that would probably be cool.
That would be so cool. I'm so open to that.
Yeah. I would love to. I think that would be fun. You have a panel, maybe a couple more people. We have some sort of panel, and we could create a topics of discussion.
Oh, I would love that.
You're so good at that stuff. So, I mean, it's a kind of like a given, I think. So, hold on. Let me see. Benjamin says, can you have a look, brother, to see what is going on with me? Yes, I can. Before I go, what I need you to do, Benjamin, is I just want you to close your eyes wherever you're sitting. Close your eyes. I want you to bring your awareness to your breath, and I want you to feel your breath. I want you to feel it come in through your nose, through your throat, into your lungs, and back out through your nose. And let your belly rise, and let your belly fall. And as you're breathing, just continue to breathe. I want you to invite me. I want you to just give me the invitation, invite me into your space, saying in your mind, I invite Anthony into my space. And continue to breathe, nice slow breaths. And as you're breathing, I want you just to relax and imagining as if you're just opening up the doors to your beautiful home. Your soul and your spirit is a beautiful home. And I'm just asking you to open the doors and invite me in. And before I come in, I wipe my feet and I softly come into your world. And just relax. So what I want you to do is anything you want to show me, just show me. Very good. Okay. So I'm not sensing anything in the way of like a parasite that's causing you, in the form of like a worm or something. I am picking up that you do have a parasite in the form of energy. So you have like a parasitic energy. These are kind of common things that happen as we're going along our journey of life. We can pick up these energies usually through emotional trauma. or damage. And what we do is we invite these intrusive or parasitic energies in to help us when we don't know what to do. So what it's pointing me to is for you is a soul fracture. I'm feeling that you have a fracture relating to some sort of incident, and it's pointing me to somewhere around the age of 10 to 12. Somewhere within the age of 10 to 12, I can feel you as a young person. You're just getting close to adolescence. And there's something that's going on there, okay? I can see some more, but it's telling me not to tell you too much more about that or not say too much here in this space. It's a little private is the word they're showing me. It's kind of private. But this is pointing you're having some sort of symptoms is what it's showing me. I can feel it's like your gut feels really bad. You're having chronic headaches. Like it's almost like you're living often. I don't even want to say anxiousness. It's like terror. Like you're like really fighting with this form of terror that's starting to come forward into your reality. What I want to tell you is everything's going to be okay. That's something that we need to establish right now. There's a lot happening, but everything is going to be okay. And you're in the right place because I can help guide you into some of these things. So the first thing you're going to want to do, Benjamin, is you're going to want to develop your breathing. And what you can begin to do is begin to breathe into, do you feel how right in the middle of your belly, right in the dead center of your belly as I'm talking, you can feel that hard rock like a pit in the pit of your stomach? I'm going to need you to start to breathe into that. I'm going to want you to start taking time. And what this is going to do is start to loosen up the energy there. What's going to happen is you're going to have the urge to cry and purge. I also having some visuals of you maybe letting go of some screams, okay? Like scream out, letting go of your pain. But you're going to have to breathe deep into the diaphragm. Your breath has everything to do with how your energy field modulates and how your nervous system and your physiology works. That's why I teach it. It's not just some superficial thing we do with this invisible force. It's a very powerful thing. So you're bringing your intention and your breath. I want you just to breathe and begin to fill into your body with air. Air is also light. So you're feeling light into your being, into your body, wherever you need it. What this is going to do is going to help you to soften up, loosen up, especially that pit in the middle of the belly. You have a couple other energy blockages. I'm feeling something at the right side base of your skull, neck. There's something going on in this area here behind the ear. I think that's lymph. I think that feels like it's lymph blockage happening. And this is from stagnant water in the body. And remember, your body's mostly water. And when you breathe, you're moving the waters of the body. So having the intention, work on moving the waters of your body, work on breathing into the places that are uncomfortable, and allow whatever's in there to release. Purge. I'm going to purge what no longer serves me. So it's like a form of energy clearing. You can also go on to the YouTube channel or right on my Facebook page. I think it's near the top, vertical energy clearing. This is going to help you to rectify some of the flow of energy in your life. But the good news is I'm pretty sure you don't have like a tapeworm or anything. So I don't think you're going to need like medical attention. I noticed that your gut microbiome is off, but this has to do with the stress levels of your mind and the unresolved data you're carrying in your cells. The issues live in the tissues. So breathing helps us to release cellular tension. There's all kinds of new great science coming out, even showing how a few breaths can begin to change the surface area of the cells. It can change where the placement of the hydrogen atoms are and affect your pH in a big way. And pH stands for potential hydrogen, and this means the placement of the hydrogen molecules on the surface of the cell. I'm going to just send a little energy into the space as you allow me in here. I love to beautify every place I go into. So if you would just allow me. I send you love. I send you softness and beauty and light and healing. And I ask for all beings of light, energies and frequencies of the cosmos, all beings of light that are open to bring healing and help to my brother Benjamin. I ask that you do so now and stand with him and be with him and hold him up as he begins his journey. Amen. Benjamin, I'm going to slowly back out. I'm going to back out of your energy field. I want you to take in a big breath. And as you exhale, you're just showing me through the door as I leave. Thank you very much, Benjamin. Woo. That was fun. I love to quantum journey. It's fantastic. Benjamin, before I jump off, if there's anything else you need to say, please let me know. If not, I'm going to just start thanking everybody. Thank you for all the people who have come on this morning and support our show and everything that's going on here. I want to thank you, loving Sister Faith, for bringing your light into the space. You know that I always enjoy your light. You're just one of my favorite people, hands down. That's all I can say. I look forward to your and Mary's collaborations. That's going to be fantastic. I mean, I'm just full of tingles thinking about all that beautiful divine feminine light that's going to come through. Ooh, tingles all over. So, and I'm just, I mean, you know, and part of it is too, I think is, you know, I'm a mentor for you both. So there's also part of me, it's like this proud father kind of feeling. Like I get to see my loving daughters move into the world and create things, you know, even though you're not my daughters. It's just this feeling that I have. Like it's this feeling of like, it's a fatherly kind of feeling. It feels really beautiful to see that. So thank you, Faith. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on.
And I want to thank everybody else for being here this morning. And Faith, I'm going to run the banner, but what you're going to do is just stay on and I'll talk to you for a couple minutes after we get off. Okay. All right. I love you all. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful week. I'll be back on Thursday with another episode of Ask the Shaman. Also, check us out tomorrow. Again, I want to reiterate, visit me and Zane tomorrow at 6 p.m. for Soar. Come soar with us. Spiritual Odyssey of Awakening and Renewal. And we'll be talking about the importance of ceremony and ritual in spiritual development. Love, peace, and chicken grease to you all. Have a beautiful day.